Everybody, welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. On today's show, Square goes live with their entire client list. Oracle takes new direction from Nokia. Bob Dylan's Tempest, his new album, goes geo. Plus, acquisitions from TripAdvisor and Square. Plus, our really special guest, BJ Emerson, co-author of the Tasti D-Lite Way. This, my friends, is our best show ever. Stick around. Hello, everybody, and welcome to This Week in Location-Based Marketing. This is episode number 98, and we're recording this live Sunday, October 7th, Canadian Thanksgiving. My name is Rob Woodbridge from Untether.tv in Ottawa, Ontario, Canada, and with me, as always,
it's Asif Khan from the Location-Based Marketing Association, yeah.
In Toronto, man. Toronto, Ontario, Canada. Sometime home of Asif Khan. Right?
Yes. For the next couple of weeks, it'll be mostly home. So there you go.
Mostly home. Well,
mostly home.
You know what? That's
so happy Thanksgiving to our Canadian listeners. Happy Columbus Day to our American listeners. And if you got some other holiday going on in some other part of the world, we hope you're having a happy one too.
Yeah, and it is, and it's also the first real full day of the Major League Baseball playoffs, and you can see I'm in full gear. New York Yankees. I cannot wait to watch that game against the Baltimore Orioles. It's gonna be a great series, man. I can't believe it. Maybe by the time you've listened to this, it will be over. Who knows?
I'm cheering for. Just so you know, Rob, I'm cheering for the Orioles just because it's been so long since they've been there. They're the underdog. The Yankees have had enough success. It's time for somebody else.
I am old enough to remember, I think the last time the Orioles were in the World Series, and I think they won in 1983. So that would make me an old guy, but I still cheer for the New York Yankees. So you can hate me or like me, I don't care, but this team is not going to go bankrupt like my Montreal Expos. So big week this past week. You were at the Ramp conference. It was in Chicago, right? You're at Ramp. We're going to talk about that. We've got some big news from Square. We've got some interesting news from Bob Dylan and, a weird application of location-based marketing. Nokia news, Macy's. We've also got Xtify, which is great, a good partner in ours. Xtify, our usual funding and acquisition news, a great resource. And BJ Emerson. God, Tasti D-Lite. As the guest. Come on, we have just ratcheted this thing up a notch, haven't we?
We have done that, yes, and it's it's a jam-packed week yet again. I don't think there's ever a slow week in the world of mobile and location stuff. So plenty to talk about.
Well, let's
jump in.
Let's start right away with Ramp. We said that I'm so interested because we've gone. This is the third week we've kind of taken a look at a conference that you were at, and this is basically the mecca of retail conferences, and I'm so interested because so much went on, and I want your take on this. So what was it like? Are retailers in there? Do they get it? Are we moving forward? Are we looking at some innovation in this space?
Yeah, I have to say it was a very, very active conference. Great turnout from the retail community. There's probably 300-400 retailers easily, represented there. All the big brands. Walmart, Target, Best Buy, Macy's, JCPenney, Aeropostale, Gap. You name it, they were there. Even restaurant chains. I saw guys from Bojangles, from McDonald's. There's just plenty of turnout. Walgreens, JetBlue, United Airlines. Lots of diversity as far as participation from the retail community, and people were hungry for information on what's coming next, and what to start implement in their stores. So
did you see what was going next? Like what was coming? Like was there a glimpse, or was everybody just talking about it?
There certainly was. It was a couple days. The first day was heavy discussion on payments, mobile payments. Led by a keynote presentation from Dodd Roberts of MCX. And so they came out and, made some noise, sequestered all the retailers in a room almost by themselves and said, here's what we're doing, here's why it's great, and here's why you should get involved, and did a fantastic job, I think, of making it very simple and compelling for retailers to participate. And since then, they've announced a whole bunch more retailers than the initial partners who were joining. And one of the things I wasn't aware of that I learned out of it was MCX is not just a U.S. thing. They're playing in Canada as well. So I on the plane ride back, I flew back with one of the guys from Canadian Tire. And we were talking about it, and he's like, yeah, Dodd Roberts, who leads MCX, he's coming up to Canada in a couple of weeks, and we're going to be sitting down with him. And so that was an interesting thing to hear as well, that this is at least a North American play.
Why wouldn't every single retailer get involved with this, right? I mean, I don't think it's exclusive, is it?
No, not at all. This is all about, the simple premise of, we're paying too much in fees. Walmart pays over $1 billion alone a year in transaction fees, and so even if you can reduce that by 1%, it's a huge amount of money for a lot of retailers. And so that's the premise they're working under. It's not about who they pay them to or any of that stuff or what technology they use. Really, it's about just lowering the fees. Period.
Yeah. I mean,
so a lot of discussion on payments, and then lots of other good stuff going on around. Obviously, there's good discussion around our location panel that we did, and talking about sort of the importance of, we put a lot of the focus on our discussion around the importance of, having a human connection, not just technology, and, really, really embracing people, and showing them from a retail perspective that you actually care, about them. It's sort of the importance of the human factor. So there's a lot of stuff like that we talked about. Some good case studies. JetBlue did a great case study. We heard from Alon Brands, which owns a whole bunch of 7-Eleven franchises. Also owns comes from the gas side. They actually own the oil side of it. So really, really interesting diversity in the conference. Great job by the Ramp people, and yeah. Well, look forward to moving on.
I think it's once you get past the whole payments thing, because I don't think I read a great quote that in the last couple of days that there really hasn't been a lot of innovation in payment. It's just a mechanism for payment, and if you can reduce the cost of payment, I think that's great. But ultimately, I mean, payment hasn't been revolutionized since the first currency was invented. We've just changed what currency is and the way and mechanisms. But I like the idea that. I like the topic of what you guys were talking about, which was literally the human factor, the loyalty factor, because we're not loyal to machines, we're loyal to humans, and we start to feel guilty, right? If we feel like we're cheating on that human, right? So I think that the loyalty factor is going to be key, and right now there isn't any. There isn't a single stitch of loyalty anywhere in any business, and because we all have a price. So I think that it's one of the things that we've got to be preaching, and retailers have got to understand that loyalty factor.
Sure. We also talked. I mean, I think Erica McClenny was on the panel that I did from Expion. One of the top sort of social media management platforms. Social CRM type of platforms, and did a really good job of kind of outlining sort of the importance of sort of combining what you're doing on social with location and mobile technologies, and kind of tying those things together. Monitoring the conversation of what's going on, and kind of bringing that all back together. So really, really good discussion all around. So I thoroughly enjoyed it.
Very cool. Well, I wish I was there, because I would have loved to have seen it, but by proxy I was, through you and through your tweets and what you were covering. So very cool. Very cool. God. So you're in town for a little while. What have you got? You got another conference in Hamilton, Steeltown, Hockeytown, Ontario.
Steeltown, staying in Canada, close to home. Friday, Saturday, there's a conference going on this week called Your Business Is Now. Kind of a gathering of small business owner operators, and some big businesses as well. Really good diversity. Obviously Amber MacArthur. So she's doing one of the other keynotes there as well. So I think we'll get some good turnout for that. But yeah, if you're a small business owner operator in southwestern Ontario, I encourage you to come out to Hamilton. It's on all the information's on the event page on the LBMA's website.
LBMA.com. Well, fascinating, man. Well, we'll do a follow up from that as well next week.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Well, what do you say we jump into the top 5 stories, the ones that you've curated, you've collated, you've processed, and these are the most significant stories that show this business in a particular light. It's very interesting. We got some big brands, some big musician brands, and we've also got some smaller little brands connected with bigger brands. It's a pretty diverse set of stories. What do you say we jump into it?
Let's do it.
Enter sound effect now for the news stories. All right, our first story, Square. This is a long time coming, long time discussed, finally launched. Square launching their directory of, what, Square retailers, right?
Yeah, I mean, to me, this is just a natural evolution of, where Square has to go. They've been out there disrupting payments, with some pretty innovative technology out there. They've got a whole bunch of retailers or merchants, using the system now. I think there's 200,000 businesses that they've mentioned that are now in this directory. So the idea is that now that we've actually made a lot of progress and we've got a whole bunch of businesses that are using Square, it's time to put those all in a directory so that people can find them and know that this is a Square supported business, and you can pay with Square here. So for me, it's just a natural evolution. It makes a ton of sense for them. It is a bit of an entry into the sort of consumer social discovery market, you could argue, in some cases, not unlike the market that Foursquare and some others are in. Obviously, coming at it from the opposite side of the equation, though. Basically saying these are merchants on our platform, as opposed to here, just find stuff around you. But I think the premise of that is pretty interesting. They even have a guy named Ajit Varma, who is Square's Director of Directory. That's his title. So he's heading this thing up.
And you know what? Yeah, I'm with you on the 200,000 businesses. And you know what? Am I wrong to think that that they just came up into Canada? That they just came up into Ottawa? Because a friend of mine who runs a company called N Product, he's been on Untether one time before. They built actually a nano watch band. It was beautifully constructed, and now they've gone into some slow goods. They were at an event yesterday. So that would have been Saturday, and he was using Square to accept payments.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, that's news to me.
Well, he was doing it, whether he's got a U.S. account or not. He was using it. So I wonder, anybody out there in Canada, if you're using Square, I know that Dom Cobal over at N Product is using it. So I don't know if this means that it's come up to Canada or not, but he was using it yesterday. And even when I did a little search here on the directory, which I'll pull up right now. There's a place, Batiquitos in Carlsbad Springs, and my 31 purses and totes on Country Route 36. So yeah, maybe this is an advance. I don't know. Anyways,
you never know. I'll tell you what. I will reach out to the Square folks this week and see if I can get confirmation of that.
Yeah, well, it would be big news. And this is an interesting play. It's not like a Yelp kind of thing. You don't get to check in anywhere. No reviews, as far as I can tell.
No.
But and this is a long time coming. I don't know why I don't know why it's such a big deal or why it took so long.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a huge deal. Like I said, I think this is just a natural progression of where they are now. I mean, we've got some traction on the merchant side. It's time to start exposing those merchants out there to consumers, and help drive more traffic to them, which ultimately drives more transactions, which means more money for Square.
Maybe they weren't happy with the numbers. Maybe like 200,000 was a threshold that they had to be satisfied with, that they could actually think that that's a good enough number, right? Instead of just
I can buy
10
that
or 20. Hey, here are the 10 stores using Square. Very cool. I mean, Square has done a lot. They are. I think that this is much more in line with their changing of the retail experience as opposed to revolutionizing payments. But this is.
There you go. All right, and we got more Square news later.
We do.
So
stick around.
We'll be back.
Stick around. All right, second story. One of the most enduring artists of this generation and last generation, 5 decades in the business, a guy by the name of Bob Dylan. Released an album in September, and it's called Tempest. And I'm guessing that this company SoundGraffiti is wrapping a location layer around his music. And what is it? Allowing you to check in somewhere or be in a location and download a song.
Yeah, and so this is kind of for me. This is kind of following a trend that we're seeing a bit with the music industry, kind of connecting to mobile and location-based services. You know, I've talked before at several conferences when I was speaking at Canadian Music Week last February about a band called Blue Brain that basically goes and writes music about specific places and then releases them in the form of an app that you can only consume while you're in that place. So it's kind of like, you know, leaning on that kind of thinking. We talked a couple weeks ago about the Rolling Stones, you know, doing some stuff with the Gorillas, and that was kind of cool. And so now you got Bob Dylan, you know, basically jumping on this with the Tempest. And so what they've done is using SoundGraffiti. Both you and I've tried this, by the way, and had some difficulty. So we'll just say that
Hasn't quite worked.
But using SoundGraffiti, you go to a map. And there's 100 locations around the world which have been tagged with Tempest artwork. And so basically what happens is you go to those places, and each of those places has some unique meaning to Bob Dylan, or from, you know, past tours, you know, in his life or whatever. And so there's, you know, if you're a Dylan fan, you know, you can hopefully make that association between him as an artist and the meaning of this particular place that might happen to be where you are. So an example that they gave was Manchester's Free Trade Hall, where he played his first electric guitar. You know, is one of the locations on this. And so when you're in those places, you can unlock free songs from the album, but you can only get them when you're in that location. So there you go.
What do you think happened at 279 Yonge Street that was so significant in Bob Dylan's?
I have no idea.
Yeah. Well, I don't know.
No idea. I mean, what they should do is on the map on the website, they should actually, you know, give you some information around that, right? So you can actually, you know, maybe you're not that big a Dylan fan, you don't know everything that happened at every one of these 100 places. You might actually learn about something, you know. Could be interesting.
Well, it's a musical history ride, and so you know, on first blush, I think this is a great idea. This is something like, you know, the Stones with the augmented reality we talked about, obviously, just last week, and but this is also one of those things that falls flat for me because you know, what if I just want to listen to the music? You know, you're trying to create a big enough audience around the music itself that don't make me go to 279 Yonge Street. And if I'm in everywhere that this is not, like Ottawa or Nebraska or South Dakota or Montana, I can't participate in this. So where does that? It has to.
I mean, come on now. If Springsteen did this, Rob, you'd be ticked.
Well, yeah, I would be. 100%, I would be. And that's what I'm saying here is that, you know, I understand that this is a musical mystery and musical ride and a historical ride for Bob Dylan, and I like the idea. But do, you know, give you some added bonus for doing these things. Don't be the music that you get from the album. So this falls flat for me, and the fact that the website doesn't work, I downloaded the app and it couldn't detect my location. You know, the experience was not a good experience. It's an HTML5 based, it's a web-based app that you know, put to your desktop. It's presumptuous that I'm ever going to do that. All in all, I think that this falls very flat for me, and it doesn't take away from Bob Dylan. It just says, like, somebody's got to manage this experience a little bit better.
No, and I love Bob Dylan. I mean, you know, it's like you said, I think you said it well. You know, the concept is solid. I like what they're trying to do here. I think from a technology and execution perspective, there's a lot of things that can make this better. You know, obviously, you don't want to do anything that kind of limits the audience. I mean, if you can make this stuff available through the web or some other way as well as being there, and help people understand, you know, the importance of these 100 locations and what they mean to Bob Dylan and all of that. You know, I think you can actually widen your audience pretty significantly here for, you know, probably not a lot, you know, a lot more different or a lot more money spent in execution. No,
I mean 100%. And if you're trying to increase awareness to a new fan base, right, which a lot of people haven't been exposed to Bob Dylan, or if they have, it's a certain type of Bob Dylan, and this is a different version of Bob Dylan. Then I think that a little history would have been great. A little bit of Dylan history in this app would have been a little bit better. It falls flat. So I'm not really sold on this. I like the other approaches that we've highlighted here much better than what SoundGraffiti is doing with Bob Dylan. No offense at all.
All right.
We'd love to hear what you think. Have you tried this? Have you actually been able to download one of these songs? Please, I mean, just hit us up with an email. Let us know if this thing works, because I have not been able to get this work, and I've been frustrated all day with it. So, Bob Dylan, you know, it doesn't impact my relationship with Bob Dylan, but SoundGraffiti, I'm not so impressed. Okay, and if you want to check this out, go to listentobobdylan.com on your iPhone. It just tells you to go on your iPhone. I don't know what happens with any other operating system, which is another failing to me, if it's just an iPhone-only opportunity. But listentobobdylan.com. Let us know if it works for you. All right, so on to good pal Josh Rockland and Xtify. They made an announcement at Ramp. Our third story is this announcement. Retail services?
No, and it's just kind of interesting. I mean, obviously, Xtify and Urban Airship and all these guys, you know, are battling for, you know, ownership of push notifications. And you know, I don't think anyone's going to really win this. I think this is just something that functionally gives a lot of power to any brand to engage customers when they're near a store, in the store, you know, whatnot. And so they launched this thing called retailer services, or Xtify retail services, and really what it is it just takes their existing push platform and gives simple methods for retailers to take existing materials that they've already got, you know, existing marketing campaigns, content-wise, and kind of repurpose those things to fit with push notifications and get the message out quickly. You can load all your retail locations, competitor locations, into a system. You know, from a targeting perspective, you can upload, you know, target marketing lists. You can, you know, so basically, it's a tool set that empowers retailers to leverage, you know, the push notification platform that they have. You know, that's just optimized for retailers around, you know, what they look like, multi locations, etc. So. I like it. Yeah,
well, and you know, I think this is a big enough space for many companies to be involved with this, and you know, as long as it's integrated, hidden in the app, that, you know, this is Xtify is hidden in or embedded into the retailer's app, so it's powerful that way. You can have multiple companies like Xtify and like Urban Airship, like, and a bunch of others, and I think there are enough retailers out there that need this as part of their business, as a way to integrate real-time notification into their mobile experience. So, but Xtify, I like these guys, but I like Xtify, I like Urban Airship, I like these guys that are running it, so we'll cover that kind of news anytime, anywhere, any place. We appreciate Josh for submitting that.
I'm going to interrupt you, Rob. So as we're speaking here, I get a ding in the background because I got an email that just came in, and I'm going to share a little bit of this quickly. So I happen to open this thing up. I don't normally do this. So,
were you that bored of what I was saying, Asif? Is that what it...
No, I wasn't ignoring at all. I was agreeing with you. But anyhow, just to share with our audience, you know, that our audience is in fact a global one. This guy named Chao Luo, who's a PhD student from China, and he writes in that you know, he's a heavy sort of GIS mapping guy. Google Mapping, Google Earth guy, and comes from that world, listens to the podcast every week. He initially started listening to this podcast so that he could learn English, how to speak English. Okay?
Nice.
And he got, because of what we do, okay, and because of what we talk about, he got inspired to go out and build a location-based product. How do you like that?
Come on.
Yeah, so he's now working on a product, and basically he's working on a location-based tourist service app with his friends right now. You know, is looking forward to getting that up. So he's, you know, I love guys like this that, you know, kind of share. So if you're listening, Chow, when we, you know, when you hear this week, we're thinking about you. There you go. Wow. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt the flow.
You can interrupt any time with news like that. That is amazing. Isn't that what we're doing this for?
Absolutely.
Oh man, okay, we should just stop here.
So there you go.
Wow. Well, Chow, thank you so much. Don't know what else to say other than thank you. Thank you for listening, man. And then when you actually launch your product, let us know. We'll talk about it here.
We will do that. All right.
I got a friend.
Sorry, back to the top story.
All right. We'll jump on to story number 4. I don't know how you top that. That is incredible. That is incredible. Really. All right. Inspiration for another 98 episodes after this one. All right, our fourth story, you know, there is a battle brewing right now in the mapping space like nothing else before. This is pretty incredible. Even through the whole GPS thing, and you know, when we had Navtech and we had and all the other companies that were battling for this, have we seen such a competitive, fierce, and bitter fight going on right now? We all know what happened to iOS and Google. You know, iOS 6 dropping Google Maps and all of the kerfuffle around the how poor of an implementation iOS 6 had with Maps or Apple Maps. But one of these companies that everybody seems to, I don't know if they forget or not, but they don't realize how rich of a mapping company Nokia is. And they just signed up an agreement with Oracle to license Nokia Maps. And Nokia has spent a ton of money in Maps. They bought Navtech, didn't they, for billions?
They did indeed. Yeah. I mean, Nokia is an absolute powerhouse in the mapping world. There's no question about it. You know, via the Navtech side of things, they already had some location services businesses from the, you know, from the telecom side of the industry. So they announced this past Monday at Oracle World in San Francisco. You know, and Nokia is going to be, is going to be a strong player in the mapping business for you know, the foreseeable future. I mean, when you think about mapping, really at the end of the day, you know, it's Google and it's Nokia, it's Navtech in terms of, you know, robust, you know, mapping, like multi-countries, multilingual navigation, all that kind of stuff. You know, Apple can go out and say, you know, we're gonna, you know, forget about Google, we're doing our own thing. But you know, we see the results of that, and there's a lot of work to do. It's not as easy as people think. Yeah, I can't just go build my own maps tomorrow. It's not that simple. And so you do need to rely on guys who've spent years and years and millions and millions and billions, you know, sort of building out the, you know, that mapping capability and the robustness of it. So. So they've licensed this stuff to Oracle. This is an interesting play, I think, for Nokia because, you know, Oracle is not a consumer brand. You know, this is a commercial brand that does a lot of ERP and CRM and, you know, whatnot for big enterprises, and mapping is a big part of that in today's world. And so I think this is an interesting, you know, and good move for Nokia from a commercial perspective. They bought, I think the Navtech acquisition was 8.1 billion, if I remember the number from one of the articles I was reading earlier. You know, and it's not just Oracle that's using these guys. Yahoo uses them, Groupon uses them, Amazon uses them. So you know, Google's struggling right now on the mapping side in terms of licensing, anyways, to third parties. You know, I would say Nokia is winning that battle.
Yeah, you know, I'm not so clear on where the revenue model is, aside from Nokia licensing these to companies like Oracle and the big guys. But they got to be cheaper than what Google Maps was offering, or why would anybody transition over from Google Maps? Probably for the data, because it is rich with Navtech. But this is a battle where you're fighting for people to embed this software into their mechanisms, into their software, into their devices as well. It's not so clear for me where the revenue opportunities are for Nokia after spending all this money and working on all these relationships. How do they make money off of this? Is it just, it's data, obviously?
Yeah, this is all about data. You know, I think when you think about mapping in general, depending on, you know, where that map's being accessed from, whether it's the mobile handset device or it's in a vehicle or where it is, you know, we haven't seen, you know, for me, and anyways, we haven't seen enough of a solution set yet built around delivering ads, offers, deals layered on top of those maps based on location. That isn't really happening, at least in a mass way. Obviously, there's, you know, Navtech's got, you know, the sort of location point stuff, which works really great, and a lot of brands have been using that in Europe and other markets, not so much here in North America. You know, the Roximity guys, Daniel, that we had on the show, you know, a few episodes ago as the guest, you know, they're doing it in vehicle, you know, but I don't know anybody else who's doing it. You know, we just haven't seen a lot of that yet. So that is a revenue opportunity, I think, that could exist here. But yeah, beyond the licensing piece, I don't know really what's next.
Well, you know, it's so important, and companies like Waze that are using open source data and crowdsourcing information like traffic and delays and you know, cameras or street sign cameras or stoplight cameras. I think that there's a piece to this. But there's got to be a bigger revenue picture that has to come into this, and I don't think that it's so much advertising. There's got to be something that's the next layer of this to spend all this money in this battle, or is this? You know, I just wonder if this is just one of these, you know, basically like you know, the tulip rush in Amsterdam, where everybody just thinks that, like, I got to be in mapping, and it's an expensive endeavor to get in there, as you know, both costly, like Nokia has put a lot of money into this many years ago. They've built this service over many years, or costly like Apple, because look, mea culpa, when your CEO has to go out and say, listen, we're sorry, go and download these apps, right? So it's costly on two sides, and if you don't do it right, you're going to get hammered like Apple did. If you do it right, you might get hammered like Google did, where it's too costly to even run those services. You have to start charging for it. So this is an intriguing piece. We got to keep our eye on what's going on in the mapping space, obviously. Sure. So that's why you come here. All right.
Okay.
Fifth story. Here we go. Macy's, you know, pretty active in this space, working with a company called Clipped, or not a company called Clipped, but a piece of software called Clipped for malls. Now, this is an interesting one because I didn't get the sense that this was just for Macy's, was it?
No, it's not. I mean, so the Clipped app is you know, is obviously multi-vendor, and you know, being used, but it's from a company called AdSpace Networks that puts this thing together. And you know, the reason I pulled this one out is that, you know, obviously there's a lot of activity in shopping malls. There's a lot of various location-based services that we've talked about in the past. Some are SMS-based, like value text, that some of the mall operators are deploying. You know, all focused on, you know, how do I drive, you know, traffic into a certain store in the mall. The Clipped app, what I like about this, and the reason I pulled this one out is that, you know, and obviously Macy's is just, you know, one of the companies that happens to be using it, but they're running this 2-month pilot in 4 malls, and it's not just a push piece or push notification or offer, you know, while you're in the mall that drives traffic in. They've integrated this to, so AdSpace, the company behind the Clipped app, also operates digital screens in the malls as well. And so there's a connectivity between, you know, 15-second spots that are running on these screens, 1,700 screens in these 4 malls where this pilot program is going on, you know, and what's happening in the app in terms of driving traffic. So it's that marriage of media, you know, multimedia, again, not just mobile by itself, but connecting media together. You know, and just quickly reading the article here again. So you have Express, Stride Right, Crabtree and Evelyn, Aeropostale, and Jose Banks also playing in this campaign as well. So there you go.
Yeah, here's a perfect example of that cross-media approach, right? Which is exactly as you said. They got the screens and they're pushing you to the app. The you know, I think this is a good start. I'm always leery of coupons just as a general source to get you into a store. Yeah. But you know, there's got to be some kind of bridge between the screens and getting you to do an action inside of the store.
Yeah.
But, you know, we always come down to it is that whatever you can do to get somebody into your store, you know, if you're willing to pay that price, do it, right? This technology, mobile technology, and the services on top of it have an incredible ability to drive footfall if you do it effectively. But always never sacrifice the second visit for the first, right? You've always got to be thinking about loyalty, as we were talking about off the top. So.
Yeah, the other thing, just a quick note on the Clipped app. So it's iOS and Android. Mm-hmm. You can get it from the various app stores, but you can also text CLIPD in a text message and get it that way. So that's cool.
I like that. Yeah, I mean, you might as well make it easy for people to use your app, to get your app. Text message is good.
I like it.
Well, those are the 5 stories. The last one, Macy's using Clipped. And obviously a number of other big brands using it as well to drive footfall, which is great inside of malls. So big stories all around, big brands in Square and Bob Dylan, you know, smaller brands like Xtify, but growing brands like Xtify, one of these companies that we think is one of them to watch going forward. Nokia licensing their maps to a big brand called Oracle, and Macy's. Those are the 5 stories. If yours isn't there, well, we're sorry. We would love to feature it. Reach out, untether@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com, and we will put your story in there. We'll talk about it. If you're running a conference and if Asif's going to the conference, boy, this is a good opportunity to publicize that right here, right now.
Absolutely.
So, Asif, we talked about Tasti D-Lite and the book around social media. What's that? It's called The Tasti D-Lite Way. And you had an opportunity to sit down and interview BJ Emerson, which must have been great. I know you know BJ, but phenomenal to get him to spend six minutes with you talking about what?
Well, I mean, basically talking about, how he sees retail and location-based marketing. And, it was the funniest thing is I've known BJ for a while. It seems like lately we see each other like every second week at a conference because we're both speaking at the same conferences or on the same panels or whatever. I'm going to see him again at the end of this month at the Street Fight Summit. We're both doing panels down there. So, I basically told him, I said, BJ, I mean, you remember the association, Tasti D-Lite, Planet Smoothie. I see you every second week. It seems. You got to come on the show. We got to get you out there. People got to hear from you in this audience. And so he said, yeah, let's do it. And here it is. So simple as that.
So why don't we roll? This is BJ Emerson and Steve.
Well, it's time for that segment on the show where we like to bring on a empowered, visionary guest, and this week we have BJ Emerson who's the VP of Technology for Tasti D-Lite and Planet Smoothie. Welcome to the show, BJ.
Thanks. Appreciate it.
We're really excited to have you. So why don't we jump right into it? Why don't we, for those in our audience who might not be familiar with you, tell us a little bit about who is Tasti D-Lite and Planet Smoothie. What are you guys all about?
So we actually have two franchise brands that we manage. And so one of them is Tasti D-Lite, made popular in Manhattan now for 25 years. So frozen dessert, I think froyo/ice cream category, if you will. Very popular, and also Planet Smoothie. So another chain that about 100 locations there. And so both retail, quick service retail, of course, brick and mortar locations, and we get to interact around great products with our customers online.
Excellent. Now, I mean, your organization has been a friend, supporter, and member of the LBMA for a while now. Tell us about what's your view of the importance of location-based marketing. What does that mean to you as a brand?
Well, you have customers that are going around with their mobile devices. They're interacting around the products and these physical venues. And sharing their experience with their friends. So they're checking in, they're rating, they're reviewing, they're leaving tips and that sort of thing. And so we feel that it's our responsibility and a great opportunity to be there, meet them where they are as they're interacting around these things. We want to be part of that conversation. We want to be there to support them in that, or perhaps reach new customers in using those tools. And so we love to interact. Certainly, offers are a part of that. But our overall value, hopefully, that we're providing is just a great experience. And so as much as we can interact with them around using the use of those tools, that's where we want to be.
Okay, fair enough. Now, I mean, one of the things I love about where you guys are positioned in the marketplace around, the use of these tools and these technologies is that you subscribe to the LBMA's view of sort of integrated media. It's not just about mobile. You do stuff with digital screens connected to Foursquare and recognizing mayors, all that kind of stuff. But maybe, if you could take all that and kind of tie it back, talk to me about, what brand loyalty and loyal customers and return engagement and all of that looks like for your brands.
I think as it relates to, putting things on digital displays, taking that very personal mobile, experience and putting it on a digital display, if it's public information like a Foursquare mayor, things like that. We want to recognize and reward our customers for the digital activity. That's kind of been our whole theme, is to, if they say something about Tasti D-Lite or Planet Smoothie, we want to be there to recognize them and perhaps reward them for that. So bringing into the physical realm on some type of display, kind of showing them off. We also do some point of sale poll displays with little things that go across, and somebody will come in and, oh, look, hey, there's my picture. I tweeted that last week, or or I checked in on Foursquare, and here I am. Here I'm the mayor, and they're celebrating me on this display, and everybody can see that, and we can recognize and appreciate the emotion that is involved in the dynamics of these location-based apps. Again, that's where we want to be and meet them and reward them, and we think that goes a long way toward promoting customer loyalty.
And just to kind of carry that thought a bit further, I mean, one of the things that you do really well is, or you've been sort of recognized for, is this idea of, you had this existing loyalty program, this, plastic loyalty card kind of thing, and you built a functionality where, as that was swiped, sort of back end, sort of, people were checked into Foursquare, or an automated tweet was sent out, or whatever that might be. I mean, can you tell us about the success of how that's worked for you?
Yeah, sure. I mean, so we layered on top of a traditional loyalty program. We just go across locations and earn points and redeem points. So within that, and you could enable a connection to your personal Twitter, Foursquare, and Facebook account, so that when your loyalty card is swiped, a message goes out to your friends, and you earn extra points because you're sharing your loyalty activity. Now, the cool thing is we took an active check-in on Foursquare and turned it into a passive check-in just by swiping the loyalty card. And so that kind of utility and convenience, where people were doing that already, and now all they have to do is swipe their loyalty card, and they're getting rewarded for doing that. We feel that goes, again, a long way toward hopefully fostering that kind of loyalty. So they were sharing already online with their friends. They're already checking in. We made it easier, and now rewarding them for doing that. And we think we have some great results. So we're adding features and benefits to our loyalty program that's going to increase adoption, and we know that loyalty members on average spend more than non-loyalty customers.
Awesome. And maybe just to kind of close things out here, you guys have a new book that you've put out recently called The Tasti D-Lite Way. Can you tell us a little bit about that and where people might be able to get a hold of it or learn more about it?
Sure. I mean, we started this about 5 years ago as far as our online journey and these dealing with mobile coupons on Twitter and all that. We started really early on and got in with Foursquare and some other things. And in 2011, there were actually 7 books published, kind of profiling some of our efforts. And after a while, we kind of said, hey, we have enough content here. We curated quite a bit of content, customer stories, and all these case studies, and then put it into a book. And McGraw-Hill has been great in supporting us in that. It's been a really fun project, and it just released on the 25th birthday of Tasti D-Lite. So it's called The Tasti D-Lite Way. And so a lot of buzz going on around that. Again, just launched just in September here. But it's the TastiDelightWay.com is where you can read more about that. So it's a great content around location-based marketing, engaging customers in the way we do, a lot about culture, a lot about brand building, brand stewardship, that sort of thing. But great content from you as well, Asif, contributor in a couple of chapters, I believe. So great book. So check it out at TastiDelightWay.com.
All right. Well, thank you very much for your time today and for kind of sharing with our audience. Again, for those listening only or those who are viewing as well, we've been sitting down today with BJ Emerson, VP Technology for Tasti D-Lite and Planet Smoothie. BJ, thank you so much for joining this week in Location-Based Marketing.
All right. Thanks for having me, Asif.
Excellent. So, there was BJ Emerson and doing a normally fabulous job like he always does. So smooth and gets right to the point in terms of how they're benefiting from these services. And so thanks again to BJ for that.
Love it. Yeah, we really appreciate BJ coming on. Go to Tasti D-Lite. Do I have to spell it? TASTIDLITE.com/book. And you'll get some more information there, obviously, about the book and how to order it. But really appreciate BJ coming on. Thanks, BJ, buddy. All right, on to some funding and acquisition news. This was a big week for a couple of acquisitions. One, fairly decently sized round of funding. We'll start with an acquisition. The best quote that I heard about this acquisition, I am going to pull it up because I cannot actually remember it. This is a Wired article about TripAdvisor buying Wanderfly, and these are not my words. These are not. I know a good friend of mine. His company was purchased by TripAdvisor, and I'm trying to get them onto Untitled.tv. But this was funny. It says that Pinterest meets travel guide startup Wanderfly is everything TripAdvisor isn't: social, curated, and beautifully designed. Ouch! But they bought this company called Wanderfly. Let's talk about this. That's scathing. That hurts.
Well, I mean, maybe it doesn't hurt because they now own it. Yeah. So it's people can say what they want. I mean, TripAdvisor is doing really well. They own a whole bunch of other brands as well. 18. So these guys are constantly buying great companies. So I think this is just yet another great acquisition for them. If you're not familiar with Wanderfly, the audience out there, this company has been around for 3 or 4 years, I think. And they're all about using Facebook friends, Google contacts, all that kind of stuff to give recommendations on hotels and restaurants and activities around you. So, effectively, the idea behind Wanderfly is, use the social graph. You trust your friends more than you trust, some anonymous recommendation from some person that you don't know. It's that idea of, hey, Rob, you've been to Spain before. I'm thinking of going. You're a friend of mine on Facebook or Google. Your views of your trip there are worth more to me than reading something in Fodders, or something like that. And so that's the premise of Wanderfly, and it just makes sense. I mean, TripAdvisor's well known for its recommendation engine and some of the things that they do there. So I think this is just a good move. I didn't see any numbers on it. Did you?
No, I didn't see any numbers at all. But no, I'm good. I'm going to assume that it was a fairly priced acquisition, because I do know the TripAdvisor and their acquisition process, obviously. But I'm going to assume that it was a good deal, but it's probably spread out over many years and a good kick at the end. TripAdvisor doesn't have to be good. It's I'm only going in there to get the information about the hotel I want to stay at, or a look for a hotel, and I think that, and you can see that as I'm pulling up here. Like, I mean, this is what TripAdvisor looks like, and then if I go over back to Wanderfly, there's a stark difference, but they're somehow showing the same information. One's just a little bit more effective. So no numbers on this, but I'm going to assume that it was a good deal. And I like this. Don't say no. Take the money. Take the money. And TripAdvisor, I think they just went public in the fall or late summer. So take the money. Take the money if you think that there's a good exit. So TripAdvisor acquires Wanderfly. You can go to tripadvisor.com or wanderfly.com. All right, second acquisition. We said we would bring up Square again. 2 stories in one episode. These guys picked up a design firm, 80/20, a small design firm. Obviously impressed them enough to warrant an acquisition.
Yeah, I mean, the one thing about Jack Dorsey, one of the founders of Square, is this guy understands the importance of a aesthetically pleasing product to the consumer. So design is really really important to him in terms of what all his products look like. And so he picked up this little firm in New York called 80/20. I didn't see a number on this one either. Obviously, they're using some of their new war chest of funds they've recently raised. But what's interesting about this is the guys. So there's 3 co-founders of 80/20. And all of these guys are serious players, like serious designers. And I'm going to read here. So there's a guy named Andrew Borowski, and so he led product design of Mobile Me at Apple. There's a guy named Jerry Knight and Andrew Lin, and both of these guys were previously designers at Adobe. And they've all worked with like Warner Brothers and Verizon and Motorola and serious companies. So there's a lot of great design pedigree here in these guys. The other thing is this is a New York small little agency in New York, and it's going to become now the New York office for Square. So they're establishing a presence there. They have 50,000 of those 200,000 merchants that we heard about are in that area. So it's important to them that they have a New York headquarters, and this is going to be it.
Well, big brands that they've done business with Warner Brothers and TouchTunes, and certainly who else? Verizon, Motorola, Vodafone, Sony, Sonar Mobile, Second Life. These guys have been obviously pretty effective at what they're doing. And if you want some more information about 8020, just go to 8020, literally 8020.com, 8020.com. But what pedigree, and that's the difference when you've got, I love these little boutique shops. And certainly Square needs to spend a lot of time on their usability and their UI UX, and it's obviously that company that's going to do it. Yeah, their New York office. I didn't realize they didn't have one. So if a quarter of my business is coming out of New York, I'm going to be there.
Time to have an office.
Yeah, time to have an office.
Sort not unlike, by the way, the LBMA, where we look at it and say, well, we're growing all over the place. We got members all over the place. But one of the things that we're doing, and you can see this on our website, is we're launching a new chapter in Atlanta, first week of December, because we've got a bunch of members down there, guys like Coca-Cola and whatnot,
small companies,
and so we decided that Atlanta is going to be the next new stop, and same kind of thing. You got to go where your members are.
They'll pull you. They'll pull you. Right. Certainly, the lure of Coca-Cola in a city like Atlanta, that's a good customer to satisfy. Obviously,
yeah.
Coca-Cola. All right, last story. This is a funding story. A company that's been around since 2009, preaching exactly the business that they're in, long before this was actually a business that people actually wanted to be in. And they raised money in 2009 during a terrible time to raise money, where the wallets were closed, very tight. Just picked up a $10.6 million funding. This is a company called Gravity. Why is this so significant now? These guys have hung on for 3 years. And they've finally come out with a product this year, and just raised 10.6.
Yeah. First of all, kudos to these guys for sticking around and hanging in there and making it. 10.6 million. This is a Series B for them, led by GRP Partners. Redpoint Ventures, August Capital are also reinvested in this. They were in the first round, so in total they're 20 million now that they've raised. But this is not one of those crazy valuations and ridiculous money. This is probably a company out there who's this is a justified 10.6 million that actually makes sense. A company that stuck it out, probably has good revenues coming in. I don't know what the numbers are. They do a lot of work with CNN, Wall Street Journal, TechCrunch, and they're all about sort of hyper targeted messaging, right? This is about targeting a message, targeting an ad, targeting content, based on understanding the personal interests of an individual. And in some respects, they talk about how Gravity, in some respects from a ad content perspective and targeting perspective, competes with Facebook. And they pushed out something like 25 million recommendations to 200 million people. Pretty good numbers.
It is, and
pretty.
And have been talking about this, as you said, since 2009, right? They have been preaching the same thing. It's interesting that they just launched their first product at the beginning of this year, which is 2012. For those of you who are watching this sometime in the future, like my kids, I'd like to say hello, Jack and Ben. I hope you're doing well. But it is since 2009 they've been talking about this, and the domain name itself is, I think, worth $10 million. Gravity.com. Come on.
I love it.
That's probably what it's based on. Gravity.com.
It's awesome.
So check them out, Gravity.com, raising 10.6, now total $20 million or so, right? Which is what they've raised over the last 3 years. Yeah, congratulations. Kudos for them for sticking around. And it's just the beginning, I would say, with that. And they're based in where? So like Santa Monica or something like that. They're based in California.
Yep.
Cali. Those are the funding and acquisition news items this week. TripAdvisor picking up Wanderfly, Square acquiring 8020, and, of course, our last story, Gravity, closing $10.6 million. What a week. If your story wasn't there, man, we want to tell it. Boy, do we ever just want to tell your story. So if you've received $20 from Grandma or $200 million from a VC or anything in between, reach out, untethered@gmail.com. Asif at thelbma.com. We will post your story. We'll put it up there. We'll put it right in there, sandwiched between Square, 8020, and TripAdvisor. We'll put it right there. And my mother and Asif's folks will know about it.
Yes.
Right. And the other 900 million people that watch this episode.
When I'm not busy eating turkey.
Oh, yes.
I gotta have my turkey. I don't get turkey all the time, and this is turkey weekend.
It is.
So.
Well, I'm going to get fat watching the Yankees play tonight. And this is what you're talking about. This is like 13 and a half hours of baseball today. And it's like, that's the typical Sunday for a football fan. That's what I'm always reminded. It's a typical Sunday. I sit down, I sit down for the pregame at like 10 Eastern, which is like 7 Pacific AM. And I'm like, I basically got a big Kentucky, a big bucket of Dirty Bird. And I'm there the whole day. I'm like 16 hours football. And I grease all over my face and I wipe my face with my shirt. That's what it's like. And then I'm reminded that that's basically every Sunday for football fans, right? It's tough. It's a tough day. I would never be allowed to do that. All right, let's jump into our resource. Can you imagine? Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
We all have our bosses.
I'm going to take the day off. I'm going to sit down and watch some football all day. Like, yeah, okay. You can do that from the curb with your stuff. Lucky people who can do that, or single people who can do that. All right, that's it. Like, what about our resource of the week? This is a great couple of slides, obviously that you were presenting at Ramp during your presentation, but very, very, very worthwhile, very appropriate for our conversation around the location-based economy. What are these things, Asif? I'm going to pull them up as you talk.
Well, it's basically a new infographic put out by our friends at Local Response, it basically looks at this past summer and check-ins, good old check-ins.
People still do that?
And they're like across the major retailers in the U.S. And so it looked at, just overall check-ins, contrasting, who had the most or what time people were checking in, day of the week, etc., and gender breakdowns across that. And when you look at the data, it's really interesting. I mean, 38%, leading by far is Walmart, getting the most check-ins of the top retailers. So this is Walmart, Target, Costco, Best Buy, Walgreens, Home Depot, CVS, Lowe's, Safeway, and Kroger. And, Walmart killing that in terms of getting check-ins. And then when are people checking in? Seems like Saturdays is the hot time, between 2 and 3 in the afternoon. And the interesting thing on the gender side was what we saw here was more women were checking in at Target, than men. When you got down to Best Buy, it was more men than women. So that's sort of an obvious one, I think. But yeah, there you go. So there's some data to back it up, people. And that's ultimately what I heard from a lot of these retailers. Whether the check-in is the right way to go about it or not is not the question. It's about, where's the data to support us doing these things? Where's the case studies? Where's the research that back this up? And this is the kind of stuff the LVMA, loves to do and get involved in and, push out there as content. So there you go. There's our resource for the week.
And we were talking about this a little bit before we started recording, but obviously that huge gap, like what we're talking about here is a 38% ownership, where do people check in the most? 38% of people checked into Walmart versus 15% Target, and then 9% Costco, and then it just kind of plummets all the way down. Obviously, this is just because of the volume of the number of people that actually walk into a Target or a Walmart versus any other retailer. This is just clearly that. It has to be.
Yeah, I think for sure. I think Walmart certainly has been doing some targeted campaign stuff on Foursquare platforms and Facebook in particular. Facebook places and such. So I'm sure that helps a little bit. I think you also have to remember that, companies like Walmart and Target, as opposed to, Home Depot or Lowe's, you have a lot of branded consumer goods, packaged goods going on in there. And those companies, those brands are also pushing traffic to go and have people engage with their product. And in a lot of cases, the place where you're consuming that product is Walmart. So it sort of makes sense, right?
Yeah. Well, I mean, these numbers are I don't think they're shocking. Aside from, well, not even the day that you check in. I don't even think, and not even the gender mix is shocking. And but I was in Thunder Bay, Ontario, which is up in northern Ontario, right on the ring of Lake Superior. It's beautiful, it's in the middle of nowhere. I think that it's 800 kilometers to Sault Ste. Marie. It's a 16-hour drive down to Toronto, and but I was doing a workshop up there this week on mobile, and when I asked how many people actually use check-in software, which is surprising, nobody. Like zero.
Yeah,
zero. And you know, I was kind of like, well, that was about half of the presentation, and I couldn't use it. But you know, nobody checks in up there, and nobody's willing to give up their location.
Well, it's a whole different market, right?
Yeah.
We were talking about this earlier. I go to Thunder Bay, you know, at least once a year. Good buddy up there, usually for a fishing trip, or
yeah,
you know, and up there it's about fishing and hunting and you know whatnot. I mean, yeah, you know, I'm not going to be checking in the middle of the bush like while I'm waiting for the moose. Like it's not happening. So.
It's contextual, yes,
culture. So,
absolutely.
You know, certainly, I think you know there could be some interesting studies done on rural versus urban, you know, layouts around this kind of stuff, and what's actually happening in terms of driving engagement in football.
Well, you're going to see that the transition, right? What happens when you get a Walmart in a city, and then what happens to the advances as a result, and you start to see these things start to percolate, obviously, when there's enough incentive to do these kind of things. But right now, clearly there isn't, and that's okay. Well, this is an interesting study. You can get it at the lbmay.com/research, where you get a lot of this stuff. It's the first story today, but if you happen to go by there a little bit later on, it's obviously local response, top 10 retail check-ins. It's going to be on the list somewhere along those lines. So, and we really appreciate putting that together, and the folks over at Local Response for putting this infographic together. That's it.
That's it.
I got a lot of white space after that story. That means we're done. Means I can go. We can go watch the ball game.
We can indeed. Right. So go Orioles.
Go Yankees. For those of you who are not, I got a nice Yankees right here. If you have a story that you feel should be on the show, if we've missed something, please reach out untethered@gmail.com. We're getting some great email feedback. We're getting a lot of people from around the world, obviously, as you heard earlier on in today's episode, reaching out and saying, hey, listen, we're listening. Can you help us out? Can you do something for us? Can you just wanted to say I love the show? And this is quite frankly what we're getting a lot of these days, and we really, really do appreciate it. If you guys are out there listening, do two things. One of them, tell somebody who might be interested in this podcast. This is free information, gives great perspective. The stories that Asif brings up are a great, diverse group of stories every week that you can learn something from. And then go on to iTunes if you actually subscribe there, and give us a rating. Give us a 5-star rating. Give us a review. We'd really appreciate it. These are things that's our currency right now. Mm-hmm. And of course, if you'd like to reach our audience, which is growing every single episode, reach out at untethered@gmail.com or asif@thelbma.com. We'd love to have you as a sponsor. Bring it. We'd love to have that. Love to start those conversations.
Absolutely. And so thanks again for listening and watching. We love doing this show, and we'll see you again for episode 99.
99. The great one. It's going to be the great one episode.
The great one. Yeah, we got to get Gretzky on somehow. I don't know how we do that, but...
We'll just have to post pictures. Never mind. All right, Asif, man, safe week. We'll touch base next week for episode number 99.
All right.
Happy Thanksgiving, everybody in Canada. Have a good weekend. See everybody.
Cheers.